She was found lying on her side in the tall grass, her body partially obscured beside an abandoned house in Richmond, British Columbia. Her feet were bare, her hands and ankles bound tightly behind her back. A black nylon stocking was cinched around her throat. Her clothes were torn. Her body was bloated and sunburned, and the police called it a suicide. Cindy James had spent the last 7 years spiraling into fear, and no one seemed able to help. She was a nurse, a sister, a woman trying to piece her life together after a painful divorce. But by the early 1980s, she had begun telling friends, family, and police that someone was stalking her, that they were watching her, calling her, breaking into her house. The first calls were strange, whispered threats, raspy breathing. Then came the letters, shaky handwriting, vile words, drawings, dead animals left on her porch. Her porch lights shattered, her phone lines severed. She installed motion sensors, changed locks, kept journals of every incident. She reached out to authorities dozens of times, but the police found no fingerprints, no suspects, no leads. They began to doubt her, but the attacks escalated. One night in January 1983, Cindy was discovered semi-conscious in her garage with a stocking knotted around her neck and a paring knife stabbed through her palm. In another incident, she was found lying in her basement, her limbs hog-tied, a needle mark on her arm, dazed and trembling. She had no idea how she got there. In the spring of 1985, a fire broke out in her home. Cindy said a man had broken in, tied her up, and lit the blaze. But the police were skeptical. She wasn't always consistent in her stories. And to some officers, her wounds looked self-inflicted. Doctors diagnosed her with anxiety, depression. Some whispered about delusion or personality disorders. Cindy checked herself into a psychiatric hospital at one point, terrified she was losing her mind. But she never backed down from what she believed. Someone was hunting her. By 1988, Cindy had changed her name, moved, and bought a dog for protection. She began recording the phone calls and hired private investigators to catch her tormentor. She wore disguises, drove new routes to work, and kept a stun gun by her bed. But the terror still followed her. In May 1989, she vanished. Her car was found parked outside a shopping center, the driver's door stained with blood. Inside were her purse, groceries, and a wrapped birthday gift for a friend. The driver's seat was pushed too far back for Cindy's short frame. 2 weeks later, children stumbled across her body near an abandoned house less than a mile away. She had been dead for several days. The toxicology report found morphine, diazepam, and flurazepam in her system, enough to put her in a deep coma. Yet somehow, investigators claimed, she had managed to tie her own wrists and ankles behind her back and strangle herself with a nylon stocking. No syringe was ever found, no container, no suicide note. The ruling, suicide. Her family was devastated. They insisted she had been murdered, that the years of stalking, the assaults, the burns, the bruises, they had all been real. And now she had finally been silenced. But the police didn't agree. They believed she had staged the events, or done it all to herself. At her inquest, the jury declined to call it suicide. But they couldn't prove it was murder either. Cindy's official cause of death remains undetermined. Her grave is simple. It doesn't mention the fear she lived with, or the unanswered questions, or the cold silence from those meant to protect her. Only her name, her date, and a life that ended with a whisper in the dark. Thank you for listening to The Lantern's Tale. If you enjoyed this true story, join us next time, if you dare.